far with us yesterday since we went over the test and quiz. But picking up more or less where we left off. So the first problems, like I said, they actually draw the triangle for you. But on a quiz or a test, I don't draw them for you. You have to be able to draw them yourself. So I'm going to jump to the ones where you actually are just given information and you have to find the rest. Remember, these are all right triangles, so you automatically know one of the angles outside of what they just blatantly tell you. And they want us to find all the pieces of the triangle, so all the angles and all the side lengths. So 26, angle A is 62.5 degrees. Side A is 12.7 meters. And remember, because they're giving us units, we have to use those as well. So I'm going to be looking for angle B. Angle C I automatically know is 90 degrees because they're right triangles. And then side B and side C. So I like to start out with a picture of my right triangle. It's a crooked right triangle. Still a crooked right triangle. What is happening? Better. All right, so we've got this right triangle. This is angle C. So side C is over here. I always like to draw my given angle, whatever it is. So in this case, it's A. In the bottom left, really doesn't matter. The side opposite of that is side A, which I already know is 12.7. And then that means the leftover one is angle B and side B. So being that I know angle A and angle C, what else do I also know? Or easily can I find? Angle B. So that's going to be 180 minus 90 minus 62.5. So that is 27.5. So now I need to solve for the other sides here, for the hypotenuse and for this leg value down here. So I can use angle A or angle B to solve for the side lengths, and I can use whatever trig function associates these things. So if I want to solve for side B using either A or B, which trig function would I use? So tell me what angle and what trig function.
Wait, to get what side?
To solve for B. So is there something that associates B with A, and you can choose either angle, I don't care. So sine would be opposite and hypotenuse, which is, I can do that, and that'll solve for that one, if that's what you want to do. But yes, tangent. So tangent of which one? You want to do angle B or angle A? Good choice. So the sine of 27.5 is equal to opposite, so side B, over adjacent, 12.7. Now, if you had chosen angle A, we would have had to do some manipulation because it would have been 12.7 over B, and so then we would have had to move some things around and flip it, and so it would have been a little bit more math involved if you had done that. So choosing this one makes it a little bit easier. Again, the other one would have worked. You would have had to do a little bit more math to it. So this would be 12.7 times the sine of 27.5 equals B. And again, just as a refresher, your calculator has to be in degree mode to do these. So 12.7 sine of 27.5. As I say that, and I didn't check, I had my calculator in radian mode from something yesterday. It is 5 point, and we'll just do one decimal place, so 5.9 So that is 5.9, and I gotta make sure I put those units on there since they gave us units. So then side C, what trig function would associate something that I have with side C? You technically already said it. You just need to tell me what angle it is. And what angle do you want me to use? A or B?
A.
Okay, that's fine. So the sine of 62.5 is equal to opposite, so 12.7 over C. So this one, there was really no way around it. There's nothing, well, I do have a trig function that will put the hypotenuse on top, but it's not one that's on our calculator, so we still would have ended up back at either sine or cosine. So I would have here, what I have to do is when I have this in the bottom and this over here, which is, you can kind of imagine as being over 1, I can take these two things and I can swap them, okay? So it's basically I'm multiplying by C and I'm dividing by the sine of 62.5. So this becomes C equals 12.7 over the sine of 62.5. And that gives me 14.3. And so I've now solved out all the things that I was missing from that triangle. Any questions on that one? Because that's how many degrees are in a triangle. Yeah, so we always do 180 minus. In this case, so there'll be things that we do later where all the triangles aren't right, but in this section, all the triangles are right triangles. So we can subtract off the 90 and then whatever the other angle they give us is. Oh, this one's an interesting one. 30. They give us two side lengths instead. So side B is 32 feet and side C is 51 feet. So in this case, they don't give me any angles. Now, obviously, like I said, I still know angle C, of course, because it's a right triangle. So I'm going to go ahead and set up over here everything that I know and am solving for. So put all my known stuff. So if we didn't know this was a right triangle, I would not have enough information to do anything. But because it is a right triangle, I do have enough information to proceed. So I don't have any angles that I can work with yet. So knowing that it's a right triangle and that I have two side lengths, how can I find the third? Yep, Pythagorean theorem will be the easiest way. So a squared plus b squared equals c squared. So I need to solve for a. So a, or a squared, equals c squared minus b squared. And then take the square root of that. So a is going to be the square root of c squared minus b squared. Now I can plug those numbers in. Now, you can plug the numbers in right away. I was just manipulating the formula first. Totally up to you. So a equals the square root of 51 squared minus 32 squared. And so that gives me 39.7. So 39.7 feet is side A. So now this might require you to think back a little bit to geometry because we haven't talked about this particular thing in here yet as far as the rules go about it. But I need to be able to solve for the angles. So I am going to solve for, I don't know, y'all decide, A or B first?
B.
B. All right. So I'm going to say, let me actually, I say that. Let me draw a triangle first because, should have done that already and didn't. So let's see. C is 51. I'm just going to put A over here. All right, so you said to solve for angle B first. So what trig function do you want me to use? Because you can take your pick. It does not matter. Pick your favorite one. Tangent. All right. So the tangent of B equals, so B is up here, so opposite 32 over adjacent is 39.7. Now, does anybody remember from geometry how I actually solve for angle B when I have this situation? It's a word that starts with an I.
Inverse.
Yep, I need to take the inverse tangent of it. So B equals the inverse tangent of 32 divided by 39.7. So to do that on your calculator, you hit second and then the tangent button. I'm sure you were familiar with that with your old scientific calculator, unless you've been using this calculator for a while. Anyways, you just hit second and the tangent button, and that gives up this inverse tangent. And then 32 divided by 39.7. And so I get an angle B of 38.9 degrees. So then how can I solve for angle A now?
Just subtract the known angles from 180.
Yep. So angle A is 180 minus 90 minus 38.9. So that would be 51.1 degrees. And you solved another triangle. How are we feeling about this? Do we feel like we need to see another one, or are we good? So I know we did one yesterday. See one more? One that has the two sides given, or an angle and a side. Okay. Let's see. Since I've done a couple that had an angle and a side, let me do another one that's just two sides. Let's do 34. Side B is actually here. Hold on. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to do 32 because 34 is the exact same sides we just had in that one. So 32, side A is 958 meters, and side B is 489 meters. So I also know angle C is 90 degrees. So just like I did in the last one, I'm going to find side length C before I do anything else. And because I'm going to forget, I'm going to draw my triangle before I get too far here. All right, so in this case, I'm solving for C. So with the Pythagorean theorem, a squared plus b squared equals c squared. That's already set the way that I need it. I don't have to manipulate this time. So c squared equals 958 squared plus 489 squared. Take the square root. So C equals the square root of 958 squared plus 489 squared. And so that means side C is 1,075.6 meters. So now I can solve for one of my angles. It doesn't matter which one. So tell me angle A or angle B, and then pick your favorite trig function.
Angle A. Angle A with tangent.
Angle A with tangent, all right. So I'm going to do angle A this time. So the tangent of A equals opposite 958 over adjacent 489. Take the inverse tangent of that. So A equals the inverse tangent of 958 divided by 489. So second tangents would give me the inverse, 958. I have to keep making sure I write it right because I keep trying to write 985 instead of 958. Over 489 gives me, so it's 62.95, so that's going to round up, so I'm just going to call that 63 degrees in this case since it would just be 0.0 with the rounding. So 63 degrees. And then angle B, we do 180 minus all of that, so 180 minus 90 minus 63 is 27 degrees. And I've solved another triangle. So, do we feel okay about this, or feel like we need to see some more?
I have a question. So with you said any trig function, does that include like the secant?
So you could, but there's not a button on your calculator for that. So when I say any, I'm really meaning sine, cosine, or tangent. Now, if you choose to use secant to say solve for, so like when we get into word problems, I don't know if this book does it because I don't have a teacher edition book. I think I've told you that before. Anyways, but in the pre-cal book, they will often use cotangent to solve something because they're trying to solve the adjacent side and they have the opposite side. So they'll do adjacent over opposite and use cotangent. But cotangent isn't a button on your calculator. So you would have to then convert it to tangent by doing 1 over tangent of that, which makes a whole lot of extra math. So you can do it, but you're going to end up turning it back into either sine, cosine, or tangent. So, yeah. And, like, as far as, like, so this one, the reason I'm saying any on A and B is because I have all the side links. So it's not going to matter if I choose sine, I've got both of those pieces. Cosine, got both of those. Tangent, I've got both of those. So I've got everything that I can use for those ones. Now, these ones up here, where I didn't necessarily have everything, like in this case I had angle A, I ended up solving for angle B. So once I did that, but I only had one side length. So like with angle B, to solve for side B and side C, yeah, that's what I was solving for. Then I either have to use, based on given information, I've either got to use tangent, which is opposite over adjacent, or to solve if I'm using angle B. And then to solve for C, I would have to use cosine adjacent over hypotenuse. Or if I use angle A, again, it would still be tangent or, in this case, sine. So it just depends. Like, you have to know what information you have. And the more you do of them, like, you'll get used to which way you need to, like, use them, if that makes sense. But it's just like, look at the given information. And I mean, if you decide, like say over here, I decided I was going to use, like let's say I did angle A and I was like, all right, I'm going to use cosine. Well, I didn't have or side B or side C. Well, as soon as I went to set it up, I'm going to realize I'm writing B over C. And I'm going to be like, oh, I don't have that information. And so you're going to realize really quick, okay, I can't use that one. And then I'm going to go pick something different. So, does that kind of help a little bit? Okay. So what I'm going to do, because I want to make sure we're good with doing this stuff before we jump into the trig word problems, because we have to be able to execute this stuff to do that. I'm going to go ahead and give you some problems that you need to do. Well, you probably will be able to finish them right now, but if not, you need to finish them over the weekend. On Monday, we'll do a couple trig word problems, like just 2 or 3, and then y'all will have 2 or 3 to do on your own as well. And we're going to do the test on Wednesday. Though, as far as the trig word problems go, you will have either one that I have done for you or one that you have done for homework will be what I'm pulling from. Now, that's not saying the numbers will be the same, but the setup of the problem will be the same, because I want to make sure that we understand what we're doing and being able to set them up and stuff like that. So, that being said, right now, problems are, let's see, 17, which is one where they already draw the triangle for you, and then 25, 27, 29, and 31. Just trying to make sure. Some of the problems, when you turn and you open your book, you're going to notice they give things in like degrees and minutes, and then that means you have to do a conversion before you do it. So I didn't give you any of those ones. That's why I was trying to sit here and look at them to make sure. So that's just another whole level. You prove you know how to convert degrees and minutes, so why do you? I don't know. Anyways, this book does a lot of that.
Try with that.
Yeah.